Hello everyone and welcome to this live question and answer session from the University of Glasgow, from here in Theatre Studies at the University of Glasgow, where today we'll be answering your questions about our 3 postgraduate taught master's programmes. That's the MLitt in Theatre and Performance Practices, the MLitt in Playwriting and Dramaturgy, and the MLitt in Theatre Studies. My name's Graham Eashoff. I'm the overall convener for the postgraduate taught programmes here in Theatre Studies. And I'm delighted to say that to help answer your questions today, I'm joined by a colleague from the teaching team and 3 students from each of the programs that we'll be discussing today. So yeah, a very warm welcome from me, and I'd just like to go around and ask everybody to introduce themselves. Maybe I should say who's going first. Christina, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Cristina Delgado Garcia, and I am the convener for the program in Playwriting Dramaturgy for MLitt.
Great,
and
thank
maybe,
you.
I should nominate the next person. Maybe Harry could go next.
Sure thing. I'm Harry. I'm on the MLitt Theatre and Performance Practices course. I'll nominate as well. Why don't you go next, Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna, and I'm on the MLitt Playwriting and Dramaturgy course. And Sabrina, why don't you finish us off?
Amazing. Okay, I'm Sabrina. I'm on the MLitt Theatre Studies course.
Great. And a special thanks to Harry, Anna, and Sabrina for joining us today. We were just hearing how they're very much in the middle of all their studies and submissions for various courses. So it's very good of you to give up your time to help answer these questions. So I think hopefully people have been looking at the web pages which give more detailed information about each of the 3 programs. And I think we're going to share those links with you on the stream. So please do refer to those pages for that general information. But of course, we're happy to answer any specific questions that you might have today. And just before we do that, I'll just very quickly recap what each of the 3 MLitt programs are. Christina could maybe talk about playwriting and dramaturgy, but so the three programs. So there's the Theatre and Performance Practices, which is as the name suggests, is a more practice-focused program that, as well as theoretical and academic study, allows students and supports students to develop their own performance material and share that with the rest of the class and with tutors. The MLitt in Theatre Studies is slightly less practice focused. There are practice elements to some of the modules, but essentially that is a portfolio program where students can choose from the range of courses that we offer in Theatre Studies, both at master's level and at honours level, and indeed from elsewhere in the College of Arts, to put together a bespoke program that they then study across the year. We'll maybe ask some of the students to talk a bit more about those different options as we get into the questions and answers. So that's MLitt Theatre and Performance Practices and MLitt Theatre Studies. And Christina, do you just want to say a word about?
Yeah, so just a line about the MLitt in Playwriting and Dramaturgy. This is a very focused sort of like study of both the theory and the practice of these interrelated, I guess, like potential professional strands. So I'm going to go a little bit into the detail. Unlike Theatre Studies, which is, as Graham was suggesting, a very modular portfolio designed program, Playwriting and Dramaturgy focuses on these 2 strands. So in the first semester, you will take a course on the theory around and the history of dramaturgy, as well as an introduction to playwriting, where you will be able to create a short play. And in the second half, we intensify more like the practice elements of that by doing playwriting too, where you will have the opportunity to be mentored and write a full-length play with the support of your tutor, and also to begin to practice a little bit more dramaturgical components and strategies. There are other courses that are associated to the program, but I'll leave it here, and maybe that will come up in the questions.
I think we can cover. Hopefully, we'll be able to cover some of that detail for the different programs as people want us to from the questions. Great. Okay. Well, listen. I think we should get started. And I know we've had a question in advance, which should be in the chat. And this is about the timetable. So I was wondering if there was any idea what the timetable will look like, i.e. what days will certain classes be and what time of the day they tend to be set for. That's the first half of the question. And I think that was in relation to playwriting and dramaturgy, but maybe Christina, you could give a quick overview, because I'm sure it's a similar rhythm, isn't it, for the three different programs?
Yeah. So I guess there's a couple of things that we can say about that. One of them is that obviously we're finalizing the timetable now, but we're pretty confident that it will replicate what we've been doing this year. And the second thing is that some courses have a very fixed timetable. For example, research methods, which is a course that everybody needs to take across all three programs, and which gives you a really good grounding in different methodologies that you can employ. That happens on Friday mornings. Every Friday morning for the first term, you will have research methods. However, there are other courses that may have a different rhythm to it, and I'll get to it in a little while. But generally speaking, you can anticipate having maybe 3 afternoon or mornings occupied by our courses. So in the case of playwriting and dramaturgy, debating dramaturgy has happened on Monday mornings historically. Playwriting 1 has happened on Thursday afternoons. And then Friday mornings, all of these in the first term have been for research methods. In the second term, this is where the kind of like particularities of each course sort of like are important. Playwriting 2 happens on a Tuesday, but this is a course that doesn't happen, as I said, like research methods for 2 hours on Fridays, because here you will be meeting your tutor to have regular conversations about your scripts. So those meetings will happen at a mutually agreed time, usually on Tuesdays, but it doesn't happen sort of like 10 to 12. But imagine semester 2 on Tuesdays, at some point during the day, you will meet your tutor for playwriting 2. Thursday afternoon, you will do contemporary dramaturgical practices, and this is a fixed sort of like slot that you will have. And then your third course for that semester, for semester 2, you are given a choice. So depending on what course you choose, you will be busy on particular times of the week. We strongly recommend that students who take playwriting and dramaturgy take a course called 21st Century Theatre in Britain, because it gives you, a really good overview of like new developments in playwriting in the UK. And that happens on Monday mornings, but you do have the option to choose another course, so your week might look different. Something else to point out is that you will also need to register for a course in playwriting and dramaturgy for a course called Individual Research Project, IRP, as we summarize it. So the individual research project is your end of degree individual, research project, your commitment. It's either sometimes a dissertation, sometimes students do a more creative based kind of research, and we can talk a little bit more about that if that is of interest. Again, for this, there are no fixed days in the week that you will need to attend any classes, because you will be developing your research project with the support of your tutor. So again, that will be at a mutually convenient time, and it will happen across the summer. So I hope that is clear. And I don't know, Graham, if you want to maybe give a little bit of detail for the other 2 courses.
I think that covers it. It's roughly the same rhythm, isn't it, for all 3 courses? So there are core courses which usually last 1 session. You've probably got 2 of those at least in each semester. A session being, 3 hours in the morning or afternoon, as well as your optional courses. I take the second half of that question, which is about space. So how much access will we have to space when not timetabled for classes? Now, I'm taking this to mean space for practice, for rehearsing or workshopping or developing performance ideas. I think that's probably what that question means. And so in answer to that, maybe I should describe. So there's different practice spaces within the Gilmore Hill building where I am at the moment and where Theatre Studies is based. So we have a theatre on the top floor of the Gilmore Hill building, which is a bigger studio theatre, but that is open for students to book out. It's very well equipped with both lighting, sound, video projection, and therefore tends to be used when it is being used for practice for things that need those kind of production resources. So maybe not for early stage developmental work. And for that, we have a studio, a smaller studio theatre performance space, which doesn't have a big seating bank like the theatre does, a black box kind of studio space that students are also able to book for their own projects or to develop work that they're making for the different courses. And then there's an even smaller studio space, which is we call it the carpentry workshop, which is a small black box that people can go in and experiment and play around in there. There's also seminar rooms which people often use. There's kind of communal spaces that people use a lot for if they're just discussing things with cast members or people they're devising work with. But they tend to be the main spaces, is the big theatre space, the performance studio space, and the carpentry workshop. And students are able to access those through our kind of online booking system. But maybe this is a good opportunity to ask. I was thinking Harry might have a perspective on how he has used those different spaces and for what types of activities. Is that okay to ask that, Harry?
Absolutely. I'm probably barely out the theatre. I'm kind of always there. Which is certainly my kind of favourite space in the in Gilmore Hill. It's very easy. We sort of operate on a kind of booking system, and you can. I think is the building open? Is it 11 hours that the building's open, between 9 in the morning and 10 in the evening? And if you're part of PGT, you can enter building out of hours as well, which is really useful when you're booking room or you're making something, because you can kind of make sure that you've got as much time as you need to be in the space and make things happen. Yeah.
Types of things have you done in those different spaces?
Oh yes, yeah. We've been so we did the first kind of thing we did in the theatre space was we did our devising project there. We staged that there, which is a half-hour long show that we made for the end of our devising course. And then we've been on the MLitt Theatre and Performance Practices do a course called Independent Practice, and it's a very self-led, as the name suggests, unit of study. I'm usually in the main theatre for that, but you can be anywhere you like. What else have we done? We did our dramaturgy pitch project in the main theatre space as well. And there's a new initiative. Is it 2 Fridays out of every month? For the
wants it to be really the Friday studio.
Yeah. There's a new initiative, Friday Studio, where where students can put on work. I think that's across undergraduate and postgraduate as well. We put on work in the Performance Studio, which is the smaller space that we've got. So me and my friend Harry put a show on there a couple of last month. So there's loads of spaces and loads of different ways you can use them.
Great, thank you very much.
We have a question in the chat. Brian is asking, are there opportunities to work or engage with the wider theatre community in Glasgow beyond the university? So I wonder whether, like, I'm mindful that Anna, Sabrina, and Harry will have like experiences of this. So maybe we can hear from them, and then maybe Graham, you and I can chip in as well.
I can go. If you are on the MLitt Playwriting and Dramaturgy course and you choose in the second term to undergo a work placement, you will get to sort of seek out something outside of the university. That can be a theater, it can be an organization, really whatever you're interested in, and undergo a placement with them. That's what I'm doing this semester. Mine specifically is not with a theater. It's going to be more with an archive because that's what I'm interested in. But one of my classmates, she's doing hers at the Lyceum. And so she's working under the dramaturg at the Lyceum in Edinburgh. And she goes there and works in their offices and attends their shows. So if that's something you're interested in, and I know it, I'm not sure who it's offered for entirely, but that is available for the playwriting dramaturgy students.
One thing I've found enormously useful this year is the professional practice course, which is that open to all PGT Theatre Studies students? Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is open to all Theatre Studies students at PGT, and is an opportunity to kind of meet and network, but also learn from a huge range of people who are already out and working in the scene in Glasgow and Scotland. It's really, really useful for kind of narrowing down what it is that you are, what it is that you do, and kind of locating yourself in relation to people who are doing it professionally, which is really, really, invaluable. Really, I've very much been able to make use of that this year. So it's a good course.
Did you want to chip in there?
A lot of the work that I've been doing has really been within the university. The thing that I would say has been interesting for me is that some of the additional courses that I've taken beyond the theater department, just within the College of Arts and Humanities, I've made friends with a few of the PGT film students. So some additional work that I've been doing has been through their film projects as an actor, helping out with things like that. So, that isn't within the theater community and it isn't beyond the university, but I felt like that's been something really fun and educational that I've been able to do just because of the structure of the theater studies course. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's fair to say it's something that we like to sort of pride ourselves in is the relationships between theatre studies and the sort of wider theatre performance communities in Glasgow, but also across Scotland, really, and even further afield. I suppose it might be worth saying that's sort of where I'm from. I've come into academia reasonably later in my career from that sector. So I'm as well as teaching here at Glasgow, I'm a practicing theatre director. And I suppose part of my role here really is to facilitate those connections along with lots of other colleagues between theatre studies and the professional sector in Scotland and internationally. So it's something that we really kind of focus on, and also more broadly within the university, it's very important agenda, particularly at the moment. So there's various partnership projects which are designed to promote relationships between different departments, including theatre studies and the arts sector, and they're designed to be there for the benefit of the students and to give them sort of real world hands-on experience, whether that's through a work placement or whether it's through drawing on the expertise of practitioners and professionals from the sector who come in and share their knowledge with students. So yeah, it's a key area of what we do, especially at master's level. Is that fair to say, Christina?
Yeah, I was going to say, so just to maybe like summarize this, I think in some courses, such as placement, you can imagine the student almost like going out into the sector and learning with one organization or one particular institution. In courses like professional practices, we invite practitioners in so that the student gets an overview and, as Harry was saying, can situate themselves and kind of like find out a little bit more about what different opportunities there are, what kind of work people do, and to find your own way in that landscape. But beyond that, our courses often feature invited guests. So in contemporary dramaturgical practices, we always have 2 to 3 guests who are currently working and bring in a wealth of knowledge. Playwriting 1 and Playwriting 2 are taught by professional playwrights and dramaturgs. So, you know, like, I guess, like, without knowing exactly what you had in mind when posing that question about opportunities to work or engage with practitioners, there's a wide range of ways in which we stay connected. There's also the Glasgow Theatre Seminars, in which we invite academics and practitioners to come in and deliver research papers or give an account of their experiences, or sometimes share practice. So yeah, various different kinds of connections and access to what others are doing and to learn more about that. While we have more questions coming in, I think that we had wondered whether our students could tell us at this point, just like rewind to last year, what do you wish you had known before starting this course?
Start with Harry.
Okay, I wish I had known before starting this course. Goodness. I suppose I could kind of rephrase it. I think I came from a very practical background, and what was really useful was the amount of kind of academic study on certainly the MLitt Theatre and Performance Practices, the kind of like hardcore writing that you do, and I think I wish I'd known how to Harvard reference before I started this course. That's to do, because that's very time consuming. But now I know how to do it. So yeah, there you go.
Thanks. What about you, Anna? Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because my answer is like the direct inverse of Harry's answer, is that like I'm a person that's very academic, very like theoretical, and that's what I chose this course for. But I've wound up through like several various opportunities doing a lot more practical work than I was expecting to within this program. And I wish that I kind of would have like prepared myself for that, just not in a bad way, in like such a wonderful way. I like was coming in being like, oh, I'm not going to do any practical work anymore. It's only going to be like papers and research and living in the library. But it's been like a really nice, healthy mix of both things. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
I think I wish I had known that our structure is usually about 3 classes a week. And so even though you might only be in a classroom 3 times a week, or depending on where you live, on campus 3 times a week, the sort of workload and the amount of things that we do occupy all of our time between group projects and between research and between going and attending things. Like, we do have a lot to keep us busy, but if you're someone who is maybe not used to creating your own structure and kind of working out how you're going to figure all that out, that's definitely something to prepare yourself for. Because there is lots to do, but sometimes it's more on your own schedule to work out how you're going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a really valuable point, actually. And it's often something people remark on coming from undergraduate study to master's study is the shift from, very clearly tutor-directed study to more self-directed study, and the change in that balance. And it is something we encourage within the master's programs, especially for some of the more practical elements, that students are arranging their own rehearsal schedules and their own working practices with each other in order to create work, whether it's individually or collaboratively. So yeah, that step up in terms of organisation and responsibility is I would say is a very important feature of master's study.
Having said that, can I add something? I was just thinking that's such a valuable point, because I don't think it's just a step up from undergraduate study to masters, but I think if you come from, like I did, outside of the UK, when I did my masters in the UK, I was used to, in Spain, where I'm from, a very busy week of classes. And when I came to the UK to do my masters, I was quite surprised that there was so little, and it took a beat for me to get used to, like, really, as Anna said, like organizing my timetable. So that is true, that it will require some organizational skills and some commitment. And also, I think it's important to say that despite having maybe those 3 points of contact during the week, for sure, with your tutors, we're still very available. Like, I think that I feel pretty confident in saying this, that we are still very much in touch during the week with everybody, despite the fact that contact time in class might happen only 3 times a week.
So we've had another question from Brian asking about placements, follow-up, I think, about the placements. Are there guaranteed placements? Would I have to or be able to find my own place? So it's an interesting question. The placement course is optional, but is open to everyone, I think. Yes. Mm-hmm. So and therefore, yeah, there would be a guaranteed placement should you choose that option. In terms of finding your own placement, we tend to lead that process from within the university, but it's absolutely in collaboration with the student. So if you had very specific ideas, for example, if the student had very specific ideas about the type of placement they wanted to carry out, or even an organisation that they were specifically interested in, then the tutor would make contact with that organisation and attempt to facilitate, that placement taking place. So yeah, you don't have to find your own placement. And of course, a lot of people are coming to Glasgow without prior knowledge of the sector here. So we offer that support and that leadership in finding and allocating placements. But it is absolutely in response to student interest.
Yeah, I remember when Anna sort of like came to an initial meeting to talk about placement and sort of saying, like, I'm really interested in archives. Can we somehow make that happen? So yeah, like it's also like there is a conversation about interests and desires, and I think that's also a good place to say that, for example, for a program like Theatre Studies, where there is a lot of choice in terms of the courses that you could take, you will have a conversation with your tutor, with the program convener, to discuss what your interests are, like what courses are available that year, and to make sure that we can sort of like create that portfolio that aligns well with your interests. And similarly, I think there's less choice in playwriting and dramaturgy, the MLitt that I convene. You can choose, you can choose between contemporary dramaturgical practice. No, sorry, between playwriting and the placement. Is that right? Yes, I'm remembering right. And again, like that choice will be part of a conversation. And then you have an open, some credits that are open to a course that could be the 21st century theatre in Britain, or another course. And again, you just discuss this with your tutor. So the ideal is that wherever there is some choice, we will support you in making those choices.
Do you want to just say a few words about the placement and how finding that placement, what the process for that has been?
To Anna.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So we had a meeting. Even though this was for our second term, we actually met for it in the first term, toward the end, where we met with our tutor for the course, and she talked us through sort of some options, gave us an overview, and we had a list of like what students in the past had undergone placements at. So if we were like totally had no idea, we could sort of start there, and then we did some research on our own and then sent to our tutor sort of our top 3 choices, if we could have a placement anywhere or with anyone, what we would like to do. And then when we came back for the second term in January, we met one-on-one, each of us, with the tutor, and sort of talked through those choices based on, our goals in the future and what we're hoping to get out of it, what might be a good fit. And then from there, we kind of make a ranking and we kind of say, all right, this is my first choice. If this doesn't work, I'll go on to this. And then from there, our tutor makes the first contact, like Graham said, reaches out to them, starts working. And then if that's a go, the tutor will take that person and connect them with you. So that's where I'm at in my stage right now. I said I expressed interest in archives, and we have the Scottish Theatre Archive at the University of Glasgow. So my tutor reached out to the folks that run that, and they then found sort of in the archive network who was looking for help, who was looking to take on a placement. And then they connected me with those people. And now I'm in talks with them to work out sort of when the placement happens. It's usually based on that organization. So if you're looking to work on a certain show or a certain thing, it's usually, since we're getting near the festival season, things are starting to happen and more opportunities are coming up. So like I'm going to undergo my placement probably in like the next month.
And that's really important to note, I think, again, in connection to this idea that some courses will have very fixed schedules, will run from, September to November on Fridays at 10. And some others, like the placement or like playwriting too, will have a different cadence to them because we are working either with an external partner or we're working to, a different rhythm of creating work like a script.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about your impressions of Glasgow, if I may, and as a city, as a place to come and live. Harry had lived here before, I think, but Anna and Sabrina were new to Glasgow. And I suppose particularly the kind of arts scene and how you found that and whether that's how you've been able to relate that to your studies perhaps. So I don't know, is anybody up for talking about that? Maybe Sabrina, would you like to say something?
Yeah, sure. I'm from like a fairly small town, so this has been sort of a major adjustment for me, but in a very positive way. I feel like very safe in Glasgow, so that's something that's really nice. The art scene has been really, really cool, like including theater and beyond. There's a lot of very nice museums, performance things always going on. Is it the Theatre Royal does like sort of a under 26 program, so they make like tickets really accessible to see theater live. That's been really, really nice for me to be able to have like seeing things very frequently that are like very high quality, very professional. Lots of varied material as well, opera, traditional theater, all sorts of things like that. Stuff that I just like really wouldn't have access to at home, and that's always like somehow very relevant to the course material. Like sometimes it just like clicks really well. So yeah, I love living in Glasgow. It's really been amazing.
Anna, can you what have been your impressions of Glasgow?
Sure. I will echo Sabrina that it has been really wonderful. It is a city that is large enough that you have like a wealth of diversity and performance, but also not so large that you can't like really be involved in it and connect to it and meet the people that are working on it. Just down the street from campus is a Play, a Pie, and a Pint, which is a really big deal for Scottish theatre. And we, in our playwriting class, we had the artistic director come and talk to us about their process and how that works. And we all went and saw one of their shows, which was really exciting. There's also the Tron, which isn't too far, and that's been a great theater to go to too, because it's not too big. You can really like see amazing professional theater, but you do feel like you're sort of a part of the community. So those have been great.
Great. And how are you? You lived here before, but
Yeah.
how's it been for you this year? Kind of accessing different types of work.
I really think there is something for everyone from an arts perspective in Glasgow. You know, I came from a more kind of conventional acting background, and then this year really immersed myself in a more kind of contemporary art and performance art or live art practice. And I didn't really know how much there was, and there is so much. There's the Take Me Somewhere Festival, which is I think it's biannual, so there's loads of stuff going on for that. There's Buzz Cut, there's a huge range of festivals, and there's a sense of I think it all being very grassroots, people just kind of getting together and making things happen, which is a really, really cool to be around when you're sort of a theatre maker and wanting to put your own work on, because you feel part of it pretty straight away, which is great.
Great, thank you. I can't see any other questions, so maybe I'll ask another of mine. Returning to the programs, maybe you could just say what has been a favourite aspect that you've enjoyed about each of the programs, but also something that you found more challenging. You've touched on that question of the balance between sort of academic and the practical, so I don't know if that might be worth following up on. But yeah, what have been your kind of the bits you've enjoyed the most of each of the programs? And let's start with Anna.
Am I just saying the favorite, or am I saying both?
Both, if you would, if you can think of something.
Yes, one of my favorite parts about the program is that the faculty at the University of Glasgow are so amazing and are all really like active artists and researchers. And when you take courses, some of your courses will be taught by one tutor, but some of the courses will be taught by like multiple members of staff who come in and teach you an element of dramaturgy or performance or theater, but then they can like directly connect it to work they've done. So you get to see like a really practical sort of telling of dramaturgy and performance, and then be able to like ask questions and engage with them, or you to like actually see how our professors have, like we said, there's a lot about this sort of line between theory and practice. And so being able to see how our professors have been doing that and ask them questions is really exciting. What's been challenging? I don't know. I guess, I mean, it's dramaturgy, as wonderful as it is not a profession that is sort of maybe the easiest to get into. It can be difficult. And so that's true everywhere. But I do feel like the staff and the tutors have been really great about sort of showing us the multiple ways that you can partake in dramaturgy and undergo dramaturgy and how it is connected throughout theater. So it is perhaps sometimes it feels like, oh man, who's going to hire me as a dramaturg? But the staff tells us that it'll happen. So.
Right, thank you. Sabrina, what about you?
So I'll say that the MLitt Theatre Studies kind of has this double-edged sword thing where I've like previously described it as like sort of a choose your own adventure type of degree. So you, unlike playwriting and dramaturgy and theater and performance practices, there's only one course or module that we're required to take, which is the research methods course in the fall term. And then all 5 of our other course placements were free to choose, which is super fun and super exciting. I've taken some really interesting, really fun courses. That's been really nice that I feel like I have a lot of autonomy over what I'm getting into. I feel like a lot of it has been really particularly focused with my interest. But also at times you are in maybe a sort of more general course within the College of Arts. So I'll say like the 3 supplemental courses that I've taken have been one called Making Time, which was really very theoretical, very abstract, but also really interesting. A course about festivals and the festival theory that we talked about the Edinburgh Fringe one week, and that was really cool because that happens so close to where we are in the university. And I took a classics course, which I totally was not expecting to take, but really, really loved it. And it wound up being like super applicable to learning about performance studies in terms of like opera traditions. So it's really like a little bit all over the place, but if you can manage it and if you can take the initiative to make it about yourself and your learning goals, then it's really, really great.
Thank you. What about you, Harry?
I think the thing I've most enjoyed this year is the kind of time to work out what it is that you do and what it is that you have to offer as an artist, and the nurturing of that as you go through the year. Our independent practice course has 3 opportunities to kind of share where we're at throughout the year and what we've been making with each other. And I found that invaluable for my own practice and the kind of work that I make. I also just that the it's a year really to kind of make a show or to make stuff, and it's immersing yourself in creativity and possibility, and I've found it all year extremely supportive and like anything is possible really if you kind of put your head to it. What I found challenging, I kind of touched on this earlier, was coming to academic study, but similarly, you're doing so in a very supportive environment where there is every opportunity to kind of learn how to do things that you might not have learned on your undergraduate degree. There's a great writing skills program that runs. I don't know where it runs, but there's access to that. It's a great place to be.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So I think we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I can't see any further questions in the chat. So I don't know, maybe it's worth just going round and including Christina and I as well, maybe if there are any sort of final bits of information or even advice that it's useful to give to prospective students. What would we want to highlight as useful pieces of advice for people thinking of coming to study here? Christina, have you got any thoughts?
Useful pieces of advice. I think, well, first and foremost, if you're thinking about it and you watch this and then think of a question that hasn't been resolved, just drop us an email. We'll be super happy to answer either by email or take the time to have a short conversation if that's useful, because we understand that people might be looking at this from anywhere in the world and coming from very different experiences and backgrounds, and that might come with a series of like concerns about whether or not you're right for the course or the course is right for you. So yeah, I think like the first thing is chat to us, ask a question, because we'll be happy to help. And in terms of the course for the program for playwriting and dramaturgy, I think for me, I'm always a bit jealous of the students, particularly when I introduce them to the playwriting 1 and 2 courses, where I know that they're going to come out of that having written either a short play in the case of playwriting 1, or like a full-length play in playwriting 2, with proper support from a playwright, and even having the opportunity to read that with actors. I feel that I wouldn't underestimate how much that's going to do for you, both in terms of not just having that little thing that you'll be able to show, others and potentially like move around and perform, but the skills that you're going to get in doing that in those modules are really invaluable. For those who are thinking about dramaturgy, I take Hannah's note that dramaturgy, I always open with this in my class on dramaturgy, saying, okay, you might have heard that dramaturgy is so complex and so difficult to define. We're going to, bust that myth, and you're going to come out of this with a very clear picture of what it is and what you can do, so that after this course, you will come out and be able to say, I'm a dramaturg, and this is everything I can do. That, like having a very confident awareness of the skills that you have gained. So yeah, with dramaturgy, I hear Anna's point about the difficulty, but also knowing that I feel quite confident that the course does give you that strength and that clarity about what you can offer, and hopefully as well, like those opportunities and connections to make those steps into industry a little bit more confidently. So,
Christina, thank you. Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate that, I think that's probably the most important piece of advice, is if you are thinking of taking up a place here and you want more information, then we are more than happy to answer any questions individually, or even arrange, as Christina says, a quick conversation. So please don't be shy about getting in touch directly. And then further down the line, I suppose there's the obvious sort of advice, like, it is really good to look at the reading lists as they become available, and to try and do a bit of reading ahead of arriving. There's also a really specific thing from me, which is just happening this year for playwriting and dramaturgy. I mean, for anybody really, but I guess it's of particular relevance to playwriting and dramaturgy, which we're just about to launch on the Future Learn platform, an free online introduction to playwriting course that we've devised with a leading Scottish playwright and the Playwright Studio Scotland, who are a professional development agency for playwriting in Scotland. So please do keep an eye out for that. We'll certainly be encouraging prospective applicants to the playwriting and dramaturgy course to look at and hopefully complete that free online course. It's optional, obviously, but it's there as a way of introducing you to some of those sort of key ideas that you'll be looking at during the year. Anything from Harry, Anna, and Sabrina about final pieces of advice or information that you feel we haven't maybe touched on?
I'd just say it is what you make it. The year is you get out of it what you put into it. If you come willing to sort of throw yourself into it, you'll have the most extraordinary year.
Great.
I would say if you're interested in coming to the playwriting and dramaturgy course, before you start, spend some time with your own inner artist and think about what you're interested in exploring. It's 1 year in which you learn about so many different types of dramaturgy. And I think it'll be really valuable if you can sort of quickly connect to what you find the most interesting, so that you can further develop that. And because you get a wide range, but it can really be helpful to sort of quickly identify what's the most interesting to you.
Great, thank you.
For theater studies, I'd say know what you want to learn about and be okay with that changing. what you want to learn and write about. Also volunteer for things, make friends with the students in the other programs. If they ask you to perform in something, say yes. If they ask you to work as a student rep, say yes. Just say yes to everything. You learn more, you do more, you have way more fun.
Great. Great. I think that's probably us bringing things to a close. But yeah, just thank you very much to people who've joined us or who've been watching a recording of this Q&A, and thanks especially to Anna, Sabrina, Harry, and Christina for contributing all their thoughts and experiences. We hope that's been useful. Please do get in touch with us if there's any further information you'd like, and all the very best with all of your plans. Thank you very much.